Of course, you've heard recently that vape has been found to cause a deadly disease called coronary. But do you know how many cases were recorded around the world? One case. One illness shook the whole world. There's something very wrong. If you open the websites of the largest tobacco manufacturers in the world, Philip Morris, we want to provide a smoke-free future. Altria, we're moving beyond smoking. British American Tobacco, we pledge to build a smoke-free world. There's a massive lying happening before our eyes. And today you will see how the biggest tobacco companies in the world are gonna repeat history once again. Hello guys, how are you? What's up with you? Listen, there is something very wrong happening. No, fundamentally wrong. Do you understand that the biggest tobacco manufacturers in the world say they're heading toward a smoke-free future? The word smoke-free includes cigarettes and vape. The same tobacco companies own the largest vape companies in the world. There is something very wrong happening. Imagine your friend has been lying to you every day for 100 years. Then he comes and tells you, I wanna lie again. Do you believe he wanna lie again? Same things, exactly the same. These companies, and you've surely heard the stories, have been lying and marketing ethically for over 100 years. Now, making the entire world addicted to nicotine, and suddenly they decided they want a smoke-free future? Listen, I'll tell you something. A 70-year-old teenager was rushed to hospital because he couldn't breathe. After they asked her, doctors discovered that she had been cigarette smoking since she was 14. And in the end, doctors diagnosed her with popcorn lung. This disease spread in the late 20th centuries and used to affect workers in microwave corn factories because they inhaled a substance called diacetylene and artificial flavorings. And this particular substance was found in some vape flavors. The disease affects more area sex and has no treatment. Over time, the patient may need a lung transplant. Lung transplants are not widely available. It means that's the end. And in the most of articles you will see about this topic, they'll tell you that this was the first time a cause of this disease caused by vape was recorded. That's when I realized something was wrong. No, this isn't a coincidence. Because in 2019, we used social media a lot. News spread widely. Why didn't we hear that story back then? The way we're hearing it now in crime investigations, they always say the phrase, follow the money. Follow the money to understand the crime, know who the criminal is, and understand everything. And that's what I did. I followed the money, and the numbers I got told a completely different story. That the big tobacco companies were involved. Because it's not coincidence that the largest cigarettes manufacturers in the world want to head toward the smoke-free world and vape. That's not a coincidence. And what you'll slowly discover is the issue is not longer about the cigarettes or vape. The goal of smoking companies has become nicotine addicts, not selling you cigarettes or vape. And when you keep watching the video, the problem will become much clearer. What's happening is a serious matter, and the number of nicotine addicts is increasing yearly, specifically children. Yes, now to understand the topic properly, we need to go back. The same tobacco companies that claim to be heading for a smoke-free future carried out marketing campaigns that are hysterical filthy. For example, in the 60s, the CEO of Philip Morris and the manufacturer of Marlboro, Parliament, and many other cigarettes and vape brands, and IQOS and more, said in a video that women who smoke our cigarettes give birth to smaller babies with lower weight but in full health. And many women prefer to give birth to smaller babies. A company said something like that. Could you ever believe one day that they have good intentions? Smaller babies? Really? This video is not about the harms of smoking. This video is about something that's spreading in our lives and will spread even more, and you will see it with your own eyes. Back to the early 1900s, after the industrial revolution, when big tobacco companies start marketing, who were they targeting? Men. By making cigarettes a symbol of masculinity. This didn't happen by coincidence, and I think you all know. They paid actors, published articles, and ran ads, all showing that cigarettes make you more masculine. They tied it to identity. And keep in mind, the American soldiers were going to many places around the world, smoking in front of many people worldwide. It was an easy way to spread their product. They paid actors like James Bond, Sylvester Stallone, any hyper-masculine character to make them smokers. And tobacco companies themselves used to say they loved movies as a marketing tool because people wouldn't realize it was marketing. They loved indirect marketing. And that's what they're doing today in our lives. but with different methods. Anyway, we reached a point where smoking rates increased, but only among young men. Women weren't supposed to smoke. Not that they couldn't, but the way the world viewed smoking women was wrong. You get what I mean? They wanted to change that. How did they do it? They turned to a man named Edward Bernays. Edward Bernays, his uncle is Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud, the founder of psychoanalysis, the president of American tobacco companies, came to him and asked him to handle cigarettes marketing. He hired him, and Edward Bernays used his uncle's theories to spread cigarette use. He created a marketing campaign that changed how women viewed cigarettes. It was called Torches of Freedom. So what happened, my friend, in 1929 was that Edward noticed the beginning of feminism. Women starting to demand their rights. So he paid women to march in a parade, all of them lighting cigarettes, holding large signs, demanding rights and equality. That parade alone was enough to change women's perceptions of smoking. The woman who smokes become respectable, a successful working woman. This reflected in films too. Female characters who were successful at work, like business managers or whatever, were showing as smokers. I think you still notice that today in series and movies, like a company director. She's smoking, okay? The weak woman being launched smokes secretly and her husband doesn't know. But the successful woman smokes openly, okay? So here's the tobacco company's success in doubling their customers. Men and women, and this strategy, as you will soon see in the video, they applied to vape too. And the product after it, and the next product as well. And the number of nicotine addicts is increasing, specifically children. Yeah, before you continue the video, make sure to subscribe to see the next episodes and provide wins. They're all great. Let me tell you 2 more tracks they play, because this will explain a lot about what's happening in our reality now, and we'll talk about the real problem. Now, you've surely seen cigarettes ads featuring doctors, either doctors recommending a specific brand or doctors smoking a specific type. How did these things? In the 1930s, the American tobacco companies released an ad saying that 19,679 cigarettes, doctors said Lucky's cigarettes were less irritating to the throat and nose. Do you know how they did it? Do you really think 20,000 doctors said a certain cigarette was good? The company sent cartoons of that brand to many doctors, then sent them a survey. How did you feel when you smoke our cigarettes? They took the survey results and used them to say 20,000 doctors think the cigarettes are better. Think about it logically. How did these things happen? They did it with Tricre and Spain. You wanted to tell me that these same things hurried to markets and separates any evidence against smoking. All these things, I'm telling you, you will see them happening exactly the same today.
In 1998, the World Health Organization was investigating whether secondhand smoke causes cancer, smoking around others. The tobacco companies panicked. They knew this time they were done. The investigation results would be released, and the whole world would know that secondhand smoke causes cancer. So what did they do? Before the actual results came out, they published articles worldwide claiming that the WHO's investigations into secondhand smoke said it wasn't harmful. Why? So that when the real results came out and said it causes cancer, people would already have to read the first article saying it's not harmful. That doubt in people's minds would stop them from believing. Doubt is the product, and to this day, that's still a strategy. Okay, stop. What does all this have to do with the recent news that vape is linked to chronic lung disease? And here lies the dilemma. Because vape has one big problem. The problem is with the tobacco companies. And now you will understand the problem. What are the actual harms of vape to you? And what is vape? In 2003, a Chinese pharmacist invented vape. Not a big company. No, a pharmacist who wanted to quit smoking and wanted to invent something electronic to help him quit. And that's how vape was marketed. That's how it spread, right? That is an easy way to quit smoking. A fun fact about this guy, the pharmacist, after he invented vape, he started vaping and smoking cigarettes. In fact, a study in 2021 showed that 30% of e-cigarettes users still smoke, even thought that was their method to quit. But is it really less harmful? What is vape anyway? Vape is a device with a menthol coil that heats and vaporizes oil. And this vapor is inhaled. Now, is it really vape? Vape is a device with a menthol coil that heats and vaporizes oil. And this vapor is inhaled. Now, is it really vapor? No, vape and vapor are cosmetic words. It's not really vapor. It's something similar. like deodorant spray. How it sprays? Same things. Its oil's being released. What's in that oil? What its harms to our bodies? Nobody knows. No, really the bitter truth is nobody knows. The only study that being examining the long-term effects of vape started last year, 2024. So in 20 years, we'll get the results. But what's in that oil? Many substances. They say most of them are not even listed on the label, but many are substances known to be harmless, or substance we eat, or substance used in medicine or cosmetics. But these materials are studied for what they do when eaten, not what they do when vaporized, because that changes everything. Anyone using vape, I'm not telling you to stop, but it's better you do, because we didn't know the long-term outcome. But this part of the video focus hard, because I'll tell you a few very important points. A substance called cinnamaldehyde. They use it to flavor cinnamon or senna. They say when it's vaporized, it kills body cells and damages your genes. A substance like benzaldehyde, found in apple, pear, or cherry flavors, gives that fruity taste. Vapes with chocolate or mint flavor, when inhaled, harm the airways and lungs. The base of vape juice is glycerin and propylene glycol. These two, when heated, turn into a substance that's inhaled directly into the lungs, especially when the vape overheats or the coil burns. Okay, that's when the damage becomes much worse. So be careful. And what is even worse, they say when the menthol coil that heats the oil gets hot, it releases menthol particles. The menthols they found include aluminum, boron, calcium, iron, copper, magnesium, lead, zinc, magnesium, and nickel. Counterfeit vapes and juices, which are very common in our region, the Middle East, are even more harmful than buying from a massive original company. Why? Because the amount of menthol vapor is even higher. They said they found vitamin E acids in many of them. Vitamin E acids was the cause of an epidemic in 2019 in America that hospitalized 2,800 students because they couldn't breathe at all. And they found the causes was that vitamin E acids, and it was banned by the US FDA. Big tobacco companies will comply with this lie set by the FDA, but the companies making counterfeit products don't comply. Vape regulation is way lower than you think. So imagine going to buy a fake vape. It's a brand just imported from a Chinese factory, and no one knows what is inside. There is no regulation on them whatsoever. You wanted to vape, you wanted to harm yourself, you are free to do that. But also be careful what you buy, because some of that stuff is even more harmful. And honestly, I really hope this whole thing's, because what's the available results of vaping, no one really knows. Does it harm the lungs? It harms them a lot. Your lungs, what goes in doesn't really come out. That's why a smoker's lungs turn black. So it's harmful or not? No one knows. Is it less harmful than cigarettes? Most studies say yes. But the problem is, most of these studies compare vaping only to smoking. They just say it's less harmful than cigarettes. Is this propaganda from tobacco companies? But what's the real problem with vaping? Here's the thing. I told you vaping was created in 2003, became available in the market around 2005. But the early 2010s, big tobacco companies started getting in vaping. They were late, but they wanted to observe from afar. Where the market was heated, once they felt threatened by vaping, they began investing in vape companies and acquiring them. Philip Morris, for example, put 35% of Juul. British American Tobacco created brands like Vuse and Vape, many others too. Little by little, they began buying into this new nicotine market, and now vaping turned out to be a very successful investment for one major reason. It exploded among school and college students. In 2019, 27% of high school students in the US were vaping. 27%? You know what the problem is with that number? It doesn't happen by accident. You don't randomly get 27% of a demographic to become customers. That means they were targeted. A huge portion of vaping marketing was directed toward teenagers. Look at Juul's 2050 campaigns, influencers, young-looking models, all over social media. Just like cigarettes back in the day were tied to identity, vaping gave the same vibe. To school kids, vaping made you cool, and honestly, that still happens in our schools today. The best time to hook an addict is when they are young, ideally still in school, still a child. Once they pick up the habit, they rarely drop it. In 2018, the FDA survey and found that 68% of teen vapers started vaping because of the flavors. Joel runs ads in Nickelodeon and Cartoon Networks and got sued for it. They also found that over 90% of adult smokers in the US started smoking before age 26. The likelihood of becoming nicotine addicts dropped significantly after that age. 72% of vapers aged 18 to 20 had never used a nicotine product before. Do you understand what that means? That's probably the most successful customer acquisition model in history. You're creating lifetime customers. Nicotine addiction can last 20 to 30 years if they even quit. That way, every time they lose a customer to death, they've already replaced them with a new one. But here's the bigger reason. Their market share in vaping is teeny. Why? Because there are 50 million vaping companies in China. So the big tobacco giants don't make much money from vaping. What do they do now? They pivot to the smoke-free world. Hated tobacco. Products like IQOS and Blue, all owned by big tobacco. You buy the device and the cigarette refills, they won everything. This time, they took a huge piece of a market they created. That means biggest market for heated tobacco is Asia, accounting for 69% of the global market. Philip Morris leads there. IQOS alone has a 32% market share in Japan, and it's now available in over 76 countries, making over $11 billion, more than Marlboro, one of their own brands. For the first time in history, what they do? They captured an entire market. Of course, it's in their interest for people to quit regular smoking, but even heated tobacco isn't fully studied yet. We didn't know its long-term risks. Vaping has been around since 2005 and done. People are just now starting to realize its dangers. So now they push IQOS, but also something even more concerning. Nicotine pouches. Little flavored pouches you put in your mouth, again marketed as a way to quit smoking, like ZON, dessert, and we're told we're helping you quit smoking. But in reality, they're just extending the life of their customer. If someone really wants to quit smoking, now they just switch to another one of their products and get addicted to that. Pouches are especially dangerous because they're discreet, no smoke, no smell, trendily online, and heavily used by kids. But that's not even the main story. The main story is this. Big tobacco is running to the same playbook all over again. Every year, they create new nicotine addicts, and the only way to quit one nicotine habit, they offer you another one. Look up Philip Morris ZON sales on Google. On April 23, there were millions of headlines from reputable news outlets reporting Philip Morris rising profit from ZON. Just 2 weeks earlier, on April 9, stories about popcorn lung from vaping blow up. It's like, while the world is busy panicking over vaping, they say, hey, look at this alternative. Our profits are up. They call it a successful product. Meanwhile, vaping usage is declining, but a nicotine pouch uses skyrocketing. Nicotine pouches seems like the perfect solution. Your nicotine fix with no smoke, no smell, easy to use anywhere, solve all issues of smoking, except for one thing. We still don't know what they'll do to you long term. And let's not pretend that manipulative advertising and D3 market tricks are gone. They're very much still here. Like back in the day when they played cigarette ads in movies, so you didn't even realize it was an ad. Same things happening today. Is it a coincidence that Philip Morris announced record profits from ZON on April 23, 2 weeks after scary vape stories
went viral. A company like Philip Morris has zero control over the vape market but holds 77% of the nicotine pouch market. I don't think that's a coincidence. I follow the money, and it's clear who was benefiting most from vaping being demonized and replaced with nicotine pouches. All these big tobacco companies claiming to want a smoke-free world while pushing these new nicotine devices. It's not a coincidence. Tell me what you think. Watch those two videos. Really good stuff. Subscribe. Love you all.